Welcome to Gaming on the Brain. I'm Mark.
I'm Glenn.
And in today's video we're going to be bringing you 5 modern 2D beat-em-up games. Now, there's no surprise that in the last 10 years or so there's been quite the resurgence of the beat-em-up genre. And today the plan is to bring you 5 of what we've selected as, well, I'm not going to say good or bad.
What we like.
a good representation of what we think is a modern beat-em-up game. Now, what I will also say before we move into the main video, just a little bit of insight into Gaming on the Brain moving forward. Now, mainly for those who've been around since the start, but we're planning on releasing the list format like we're currently doing going forward as our main video, but we'll also be releasing playthroughs for those games that we might complete or ones that we feel that are fit to be released as a full playthrough. So keep a lookout for those as well. Now, as always, we encourage you to leave comments and feedback. You know, if we're rubbish, tell us. If we're doing great, tell us. And likewise as well, if you can think of any game or genre that you'd like to see us do, please tell us, because we'd love to have a crack at those as well. Now, what I would also say is we've got 5 absolute bangers for you today. So you might want to stick around till the end because you don't want to miss any of these. But with that said, we'll hope you enjoy the video. See you soon.
Enjoy.
26 years, Glenn. 26 years. That's how long it's taken for Sega to release a new mainline Streets of Rage game.
It's an eternity, isn't it?
It's an absolute eternity. A whole 26 years to give us another opportunity to clean up those troubled streets of Wood Oak City. The thing is though, was it worth the wait? Because for me it absolutely was, mate.
I'll tell you what it is. We only found out about this game. Well, personally, I only found out the game shortly before it was released, really, and it was just blew my mind. I mean, I collected all the Street Rage games, and back in the day, including the Game Master versions, and to finally get to play a new, complete official installment was just absolutely mind-blowing. The look of the game really does fit, I think, having that sort of worn-down look, you know, now. It moves away from the more Dayglow style of the older games, which works, but the stages there like that as well, if you still want to have that look as well. Because of the nostalgia for me, just having classic bosses pop up as secret opponents, you know, during levels is just absolutely amazing. The new combat system, I mean, it doesn't feel too different from the old games.
Really fast, really fluid,
yeah.
Loads of juggles, combo
centric, you know, so like, it really does work for me. Like, what do you think, mate?
I tell you what, when I first seen the screenshots, Glenn, of this back in 2020 before it came out, I was initially quite disappointed because I didn't like the new look, but all of that faded away really quickly when I got my hands on the game because it fits perfectly and it looks beautiful.
I think as well, being quicker, I think it feels like a natural progression from the older games because you've got 25 or 2.5 decades on those. Even the characters do look sort of like Axel's a bit heavier on that, but still muscly as hell. You know, that it looks like they've deliberately went with the aged look for the game, and it absolutely works for me. Like
20 playable characters, Glenn, as well. That's more than quite a lot of one-on-one fighting games, if I'm honest. And you've got a return of your Streets of Rage 1 characters, which all look class when they're in the game. You've got your Streets of Rage 2 characters, your Streets of Rage 3 characters, all with their run and dodge abilities.
They work different as well, don't they?
Yeah, exactly.
So you can have a Streets of Rage 2 Axel, Streets of Rage 1 Axel or whatnot versus a Streets of Rage 3 or the modern Saw 4 Axel, and they'll have different movesets and sometimes the different advantages and disadvantages between themselves that makes them all viable, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for me, my favourite character is Streets of Rage 3 Axel because he's so fast, it's unbelievable.
I think mine was Shiver from Street.
Shiver, fair enough, mate, it's a good one. But Cherry as well. Cherry was a standout character for me. I think she's really good, and her combos are excellent. She's got a mixture of skate
which I think is delivered for skate in this game.
Skate isn't in there. He's the only one who hasn't returned. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. But again, he'd be an adult now, wouldn't he? Now they'll probably have to do an adult version of him. And Skate's charm was that he was like a young, small, you know.
He certainly wouldn't be on his wheels now, would he? He'd be just walking around like a normal guy.
That's it. Yeah, crazy man.
But one thing as well, that the music, although not as good as like Streets of Rage 2, I don't think anything will ever touch that soundtrack. There is still a few bangers in here, but they're not as memorable. There is a mixture of artists. Yuzo Koshiro does return for a few of these tracks, But yeah, not quite as standout as Streets of Rage 2, but still an absolutely amazing soundtrack that actually is dynamic as well, and it changes quite often through the stages. So yeah,
it does fit the atmosphere and the feel of the game.
It does. There is some good tracks in there. I say not memorable. I can remember a few off the top of my head right now, but I have played this quite a few times.
Yeah.
On top of that as well, you're not just restricted to your arcade mode. You've got a full story mode there, which has got the segments of in between levels. You've got a DLC survival mode, which was Mr. X's Nightmare, which is actually pretty good. No, it is. It's good. I've played through it. I say I've played as far as I can get into it. You've got a boss rush mode there as well, which is quite good. So honestly, for me, I absolutely recommend this game. If you loved any of the Streets of Rages, or you've never even played them, just go out and get it. You can get it for cheap these days. It came out in 2020. Go for it.
I think I did just want to add one more thing as well before we wrap up, as in the bosses. I thought there was some great nod-backs to characters from early games, not just enemies, but classic playable characters who were now turned heel. So I thought the selection of bosses was quite cool, and definitely a nod back to the past while at the same time bringing in the future. So a fantastic game.
Absolutely love this game. Absolutely love it. I'm just going to get straight to it, Glenn. Right off the bat, I'm going to say this is the best Double Dragon game easily since Double Dragon Advance back in 2003.
I beg to differ, but I will get into that in a second. I do think it's fantastic, though.
I've spent quite a lot of time with this game, but you, for yourself, yesterday was the first time you played this. So what do you think as a newcomer to it?
I think it's a great game. I love the deep combat system, which really does reward. It's a risk-reward system, So
special moves, isn't it? Emphasis on special moves.
It feels very different from classic Double Dragon. When I say classic, I would generally mean DD1, DD2, arcade, NES versions to a degree, and Double Dragon Advance, which I think for me is still personally is the best Double Dragon game, but I won't get into that right now. The presentation really does work. I love the more chibi style. Even though it's not exactly the same as the classic NES games, it does harken back a bit more to that. Or if anyone had the Master System version of the original DD1, you might get a little bit of vibe there. It really does work.
As an Easter egg as well, you see the Double Dragon 1 sprites in some of the loading screens, don't you?
It's great. They kept them pretty much the same as the original style. It's got the combat system. It is more based on using your special moves. You want to be focusing on that so you can get extra items, not for health.
So the way the combat works is each character's got 3 special moves, which are all unique to that character. The idea is, if you perform a crowd control special move, which is what they are, 3 people killed equals like a hot dog, 4 people's a burger, 5 people's a turkey, and each give you more health back. And obviously it's quite a tough game in a sense, so you do need those health pickups, so you need to perform the special moves to do that.
I like it.
Well, where I feel it's different, as I said, it's not a criticism. Like I say, it does have that focus more on the special moves. Obviously, through the original Double Dragon, the arcade had a focus on one move.
Elbow.
Yeah. They fixed it a bit with the sequel, but I digress. But I love the absolutely diverse set of characters. How many different characters?
13 playable characters, Glenn. And there's another 2 coming in April this month as we record.
It's great how it's still getting DLC, mate, isn't it, at this time now. It's been out a bit now, it's getting DLC. But it looks like, again, something I love about this game is that they really have looked back into the whole of the Double Dragon lore, bar Double Dragon 5, but maybe
for the best
reason, but they've used some stuff from even Double Dragon 3, which I know is a very divisive game for many people, depending on which version you play as well. But it is nice to see characters from even that game getting a return in a new, maybe fixed version, you know. And obviously you've got some classics from obviously Double Dragon 1, but Double Dragon 2 as well, and Return or Super Double Dragon, the classic for the Super Nintendo as well. You've got, you know, some of the bosses are that focus.
So Double Dragon Gaiden, it's you actually have essentially a roguelite system in there.
That's right. Well, the shop though, isn't it? Isn't that maybe a more refined version
to
of
Double Dragon 3? Yeah. So at the end of each stage, you can go and buy buffs for your character, which can power up your special moves, your combo moves, give you extra health, all those kinds of things. And not only that, your route through the game is whichever way you choose to do it. So there's 4 main missions, and each mission can have up to 3 stages. You get to select which mission you do in which order, and the start with only 1 stage for the first mission, then you'll get 2 stages for the second, and then the other 2 remaining
each stage has a sub boss as well, don't it?
That's right, and each stage has a sub boss as well. So there is a load of variety in the way you play through the game, a load of variety in the way you buy your buffs. If you want to purchase the unlockable content, of which there's a lot, then you ideally want to avoid buying the buffs and save your coins to trade for tokens. So there's a lot of stuff going on here in the background. And for me, look, it's an absolute fantastic package. One hell of a game. Definitely. I absolutely recommend it. I think you'll hear that a lot in this video.
So but there's a lot of customizability as well. I thought in the in the startup menus and the options, your difficulty options, and like you just says about buying tokens and that and buffs and everything. The changes, the absolute control you've got over the game is great. It's a great game.
On top of that as well, you don't just pick one character, you actually select 2 characters each, so you have like a tag system as well, so you tag a character in and out. So again,
NES version maybe?
Exactly. But and on top of that as well, even more to offer, you get a 2-player versus mode and a survival mode, so there's plenty here to keep you coming back.
Definitely. We'll want to play them at some point, so, you know.
Amazing game.
Amazing. Absolutely. And I'm not plugging Double Dragon 3 either.
You shouldn't, it's terrible.
Yes, no.
The Takeover, Glenn. So this is the oldest game that we're going to be taking a look at today. It actually released as early access back in 2016, and it didn't get a full release until 2019.
And this one's got an interesting history, hasn't it?
It has, yes. It's developed by a Greek developer, Pelican 13. At least that's how I assume you pronounce it.
Yeah.
And it's actually got some ties to Matt Muscles as well, who's a YouTuber, Glenn. I think
I like this guy. I watch a bit of his stuff, especially his worst fighting game series. So he's been around a while. He's done some fine stuff. Like
shout out to Matt Muscles. This one, if I'm honest, I'm a little bit unsure. I like the game. I've played through it a few times now as well. My main problem, I think, with this one is there's too much stuff going on the screen.
I mean, the graphics are absolutely beautiful.
It's beautiful, right? Probably the best looking game on our list.
Yeah, we're comparing the stuff that we haven't even put on the list, which is recent, and it's just... it's not even that the screen's full of enemies. I mean, the classic final fight from 1989 had 10 enemy sprites on it once, but you knew what was going on. But this one, it just seems that much animation.
It's every time you see it knock somebody down, they'll drop a grenade and you'll get blown up, or there'll be something else exploding, or there'll be a ship crashing into a harbour or something. There's a lot going on. It's a bit of a sensory overload, if I'm honest. And I get it. I get why they've went that way with the presentation, because it looks amazing.
It's mind-blowing, yeah.
But when you've got 2 players on at the same time, I think it's probably just a little bit too much, if I'm honest. However, the combat, you've got a lot of options. You've got a gun as well. You've got a sidearm which you can use to shoot. You've got the usual, jump. You've got a kick and punch, which you can use to just combo enemies repeatedly and pretty much keep them on the feet until they're dead.
There's definitely emphasis on juggling here, isn't it? Trying to keep an enemy on the feet, like you say, until they're dead, or keep them in the air. So going back to the Muscles, being a fighting game fan, there's the elements of that, I think, in more recent fighting games where juggles, more recent, 90s onwards, have been a big thing, so shouts out to that, that looks great, I think.
But there's a lot there, a lot of combat. There's a rage meter which fills up so you can activate a rage mode, which means you kick the crap out of everyone quite easily.
Yeah.
You've also got a special move that builds up as well that you can use, which is essentially like missiles that rain down on the screen.
Yeah, so there's a bit of strategy to this as well, though. So, like I say, I mean, I find the combat system to be quite deep, but it's. And as I say, you want to be keeping your rage mode mainly for tougher enemies or for bosses and that, and you have that screen clearing special move, which is quite a little bit of an oddball to the original Streets of Rage, I think.
You've also got your own character's individual special moves, which you use with a specific button, and similar to Streets of Rage as well. So there is quite a wealth of moves and options available. Music-wise, there's actually some tracks here by Yuzo Koshiro as well. So we would always compare these beat-em-up games to Streets of Rage 2. I mean, how could you not? But in this instance, well, yeah, it's Yuzo Koshiro, so it's apples for apples, basically.
Exactly, have some original stuff from the master himself. And the thing is, as we're playing through, we're looking and going,
sounds like Streets of Rage 2.
It's like, there you go, fantastic, like.
Only 4 playable characters on this one, and one of them you've got to unlock, so it's hardly like the wealth of characters that was shown on some of the other games on this video. But the characters are quite well balanced, good to play as. I especially like is it Connor, I believe, who's got the baseball, Jackson, who's got the baseball bat. He seems quite good.
Yeah,
the villain though at the end, Freya, she's a disappointment, isn't she? She goes down far too easy.
Do you know what it is, mate? To build on what you just said there a little bit more, I found that the whole roster of enemies were slightly disappointing. I mean, for the first two or three, the first 2 or 3 bosses were like, I would have fought this guy, they don't look very different, and the basic enemies are, again, not necessarily bad in its way. I mean, they're clearly inspired and based on characters that came out before in like Streets of Rage and Final Fight, but some of them look a little bit too close to those characters, so I thought there wasn't as much maybe identity or personality with the enemy cast. Not a bad enemy cast, I've seen worse, but probably not the best either, if I can say.
Something else I found really strange about this actually, in 2-player you emit level mission 7 stage 1. So I originally played this on the PlayStation 5 and I played all the way through it, and I remember there being a level that was set in Afterburner essentially, where you're flying along and you jet shooting enemies out of the sky. Seems a bit disjointed for this game.
Yeah, it was a bit jarring.
In 2-player you don't play that stage at all, so I did have to take a moment after to show Glenn just so I could get it in the video, so we'll show that now. But it's not a bad little stage, if I'm honest, and it's a shame that it was omitted from the full game in 2-player, so I'm sure they could have found a way to work that in.
Doesn't it feel though like it's part of a completely different game?
Yeah, it does.
It's been added in there. Maybe it was it could have been a prototype or a proof concept for obviously an Afterburner homage game.
Yeah,
that's
definitely
been scrapped the last minute. They've shoehorned it in because there's no elements of this of the main game in this at all.
But I mean, we've probably made this sound a bit negative, but that's not my intention.
It's not
our intention here. It actually is a very good game.
Yeah.
It's just there's a few things that are a little strange, like I say, the sensory overload, the omission of that level, the Afterburner level. But all in all, it's a great game, definitely worth your time. So pick it up, play it, you'll enjoy it. It's a good beat 'em up.
Absolutely.
Not too shabby.
Next up on our list, Glenn, is a 2022 release from a British developer, Bitmap Bureau, who you might be familiar with the game Xenocrisis. If not, it's a fantastic overhead.
It's a great game. You have
shooter.
to put Johnson on it as well. It's mail and multiple systems.
Pretty sure it'll feature on our list at some point. Yeah. However, what we're talking about today is Final Vendetta.
Yeah.
For me, straight away, I'm just going to say it felt very much like a Neo Geo game. It borrowed a lot of presentation ideas from the likes of Burning Fight, I felt.
Yes, yeah. I thought as well that obviously the aforementioned Burning Fight, not being one of the best on the Neo Geo, but like a well-known game, but it was nice to see it take a few little elements and features from obviously the clues in the name as well, like fan fight and vendetta.
Absolutely.
The look is there.
Yeah, they seem to have borrowed the kick on the ground, like the ground pound feature from Vendetta, and then the rest of it's obviously final fight. But what I thought was a bit not strange, maybe a good thing for me, it was over very quickly on medium.
Yes, I was happy. I mean, because I was expecting an hour plus game here now. I mean, yes, you could talk about content and the price of content these days, but personally, I thought that was just bang on. Roughly half an hour tops.
Yeah.
Yes, shorter than the games it's basically taken inspiration from, but just the right length. I mean, for me personally, half an hour is just bang on for I say bang on a lot. Bang on for a beat 'em up game, and it was for this one.
And presentation wise, yeah, we talked about the graphics there and how they're like very Neo Geo-esque, but the music as well, you can feel that Streets of Rage 2 vibe in there.
Good music when it's good. Not as great as those classics.
Not many memorable songs, I would say, but the music was, it accompanied the game very well. And I found there was no real like earworms as such. But it was good. It was good. It was well done, in my opinion.
It did work now, didn't it?
Combat, Glenn. Combat was fast, fluid, satisfying, quite crunchy.
Well, this is what I like the most, mate, because I mean, even though yes, we're in 2025 now, and obviously this is still a fairly recent game, the combat wasn't too deep, and that is, do you know what it is? The crazy thing for me, that's not a negative. I mean, I love the basic but very polished style that the combat brought. I mean, it had what the special move system was similar to Streets of Rage 3's special move system, but not exact. So it wasn't very advanced. There's way more advanced games than Van Vendetta that came out in like '96 in the arcades and onwards. I'm thinking of Guardians. There's a classic. But no, everything that was there was just so polished and worked exactly as it should. So the initial feel when I played it just really hit the spot for me, like a sweet spot, definitely.
This is a good one. I think if you've got half an hour to kill, pick up and play and just finish it. It's a good game, definitely worth your time, and definitely worth the small amount of change that you can pick it up for on the likes of Steam and things like that these days.
I also thought the graphics, now again, in one regard you would say the graphics aren't very great because they are fairly simple. I mean, animate well, but there's nothing too flashy, but they really do look like a very refined early, maybe 93, 94, very refined early 90s beat 'em up, and that look just appeals so much to me myself, like.
I'm untouchable!
So, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge. This one released in 2022. You might actually realise as well that it was also published by .mu Games, which published Streets of Rage 4 earlier in our list.
Yeah, I've seen that. I was wondering, because this game I hadn't had any real interaction with. Streets of Rage 4 I clearly did,
Yeah, so I've only played today was the second time I've played through this game, and I remember completing it the first time with a couple of my friends over Xbox Live. And I remember thinking round about the hour mark, it's going on a bit too long.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. I mean, I think my real only single criticism of this game is the fact that it's far too long. I think half an hour is about ideal, but like you say, 1 hour is the absolute maximum for a sweet spot for a game like this. I think what they could have done, and it's just my opinion, is maybe split the game up into 2 or 3 smaller modes, maybe along the lines of the Streets of Rage remake.
Yeah.
Just as a comparison there, that could have been an idea.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Streets of Rage 4, for example, which runs at about an hour and a half, I didn't find myself getting bored at all in that, but this one, by the hour mark, I was thinking, when's it going to end? But that's probably my only real criticism as well, Glenn.
I think with mainly what it is because there's not a great lot of variation. So, I mean, they try and throw in a few levels that feel more like bonus levels in the style of the older Turtles arcade games, and Turtles in Time, in like I say, arcade versions. But there's not really that much of it, and it doesn't really deviate too much from the main gameplay, which is great, by the way. I mean, the actual gameplay as it stands is a load of moves. I will continuously mention the original Turtles arcade games, but the feel is there, isn't it? I mean, the game feels like a sequel, feels like a follow-on to those games in style, but the depth of the combat now is fantastic. The individual character development as well of the playable heroes is a little bit more interesting and more diverse than the original cast in the early games, which of course are like 30-odd-year-old. I thought as well that there's some great homages to characters from the older games and the older cartoons and the original Mirage comic series. I mean, you see bosses that are clearly similar to the old sprites from Turtles 1 and 2 arcade, and some more new characters either that haven't been used before in the game or that actually appeared in, like, for instance, Turtles Tournament Fighters, another classic.
Yeah, speaking of characters as well, you start with the basic Turtles, but there is quite a few unlockable characters, such as Casey Jones. And on top of that, there was a couple of DLC packs released, which give you additional characters like Usagi, Karai, Mona Lisa, and that Mondo Gecko as well. Some more notable things about the combat, like you say, it's a lot more fleshed out than those original Turtles arcade games. There's a ton of moves in there. You can actually grab people now and
standard Final Fight style.
Execute different variations of floors. As you're going through the game as well, you increase your power level.
So you a little bit of RPG elements there,
Yeah, you don't choose, but based on like experience and score, you kind of like level up your power, as in like additional power bars, additional like literally power for combat, more health, that kind of thing. Also on top of that, within each episode, because it's split into 16 episodes, within each episode there's 3 challenges in each episode to complete. And
objects, wasn't it?
Yeah, also there's collectible objects throughout each episode as well, which award you with additional points. So there's quite a bit to do there. Some of the boss fights are very interesting.
There were. I mean, we wanted to mention one, didn't we? That was a little
Leatherhead,
it was Chrome. Was it Chrome Dome or Metalhead?
Metalhead.
One of them get confused now, but that was clearly a nod back to Turtles in Time, or possibly Turtles 4 in Time on the SNES. Which I thought was a great little enjoyable boss fight as well. Yeah,
the other thing as well, what I liked, it's got that system where in like up to 6 player. Actually, I forgot to mention that the game is up to 6 players. But when one of your other turtles or other characters gets hurt, you can actually revive the down. And it gives them a little bit of health back to try and keep them going. So that's something new that I like to see.
The graphics as well, pretty damn fine actually, man. Nice look and some good background.
Plenty of colour.
A bit minimalistic in places, but enough to be interesting and to keep that style and vibe of the classic games and obviously the comic series and cartoons. The intro as well. Great, man.
Of course, great intro. But like I say, the only real criticism, it runs a little bit longer than it really needed to, but otherwise it's a good solid beat 'em up that pays, homage to the original arcade originals.
If you love them, definitely give it a shot. Absolutely give it a whirl, and you will. I think you'll be impressed.
You will. You'll enjoy this one. Here we are at the end of the video again, and I think for me, Glenn, the most ambitious one today was definitely the takeover, but where there was lots of ideas that worked, like we also said in the video, it's a great game, but I think it's far too busy at times.
Definitely far too much going on. I mean, it was a beautiful, it's a stunning, it's absolute banger of a game,
stunner.
But it just, the amount going on at once, it brings you too far out of it. I mean, it gets a point where just tone it back a little bit, you know. So I thought,
Just a little, yeah, just a little would have helped. What about you, though? Any particular one that stood out for you?
well, funny enough, like the one game I was most impressed is the game that's probably the least impressive. If you look at the one where it was actually Fan Vendetta.
I knew you were going to say that.
The game was only about half an hour long, which is just ideal for big. It always has been, in my opinion. The graphics were great, but they weren't like
Very Neo Geo-esque.
Yeah, very Neo Geo-esque, but that's for 1992. You know what I mean? But the game and its combat was simple, but it just felt just right, you know. And the game then, it only had one bonus level, didn't it? Which was clearly ripped off Final Fight, but it just worked. So, you've got to remember, if we're looking at either old games or games that are trying to be like old games, I always think it's about the playability more than the graphics. And for me personally, Fan Vendetta was my number one out of the 5. Like,
it's a smooth beat 'em up, Glenn. But
Yeah.
what about the best for you today? Was that your best as well, would you say?
it's my best game as far as playability goes. As far as graphics goes, I have to agree with you on
Takeover.
On the Takeover, just because it looked fantastic in motion.
What about the best feeling one?
Again, Fan Vendetta.
Oh,
Now,
okay.
for pure mechanics and definitely improvements over an older game, because it's basically related, really has to be the Turtles game. Shredder's Revenge was just there's so much new there, which it just made the game that much more. You know, even the map screen felt like a homage to the classic NES Turtles game. That one, you know, that was great. Street Fighter 4, fantastic game, always has been. Played it a lot. I'm a massive lover of the series back in the day, and including the handheld and the Master version.
Yeah.
Got to love them versions as well. I want to do a video on those one day. Fantastic game, and I just felt, you know, Double Dragon was. It's an unusual one because it doesn't feel anything like a Double Dragon game. Not a bad thing in itself. I'm not going to mention Double Dragon 3 today. I'm not going to talk about it. But it had enough improvements and changes that made the game a much fleshed out experience, and just
I get it.
with the different choices of levels as well, so you could have a very different experience every time. For homage to classic characters and bosses and that, Double Dragon was a fantastic game as well, I think.
Well, look, the best for me is I literally can't choose between Streets of Rage 4 and Double Dragon Gaiden. Asking us to choose would be like asking us which lung I'd like to keep. I love them both very much, and they're both very different games that I feel I can do that. I'm allowed to say I love them both just as much.
I think I'd like to add one more thing, and I want to know your opinion on this. Do you think the 2D fighting genre beat 'em up genre, in fact, can still thrive going forward?
Absolutely, I think we've proved that in this video alone.
This is great, because I hope there's more people out there who love this classic genre, and I think as well now in this day and age, I love to say that now, in this day and age, what you've got is the absolute perfection of that, because it can look at all the past failures and all the past successes of this genre of game, and take everything that made the games the best they were at the time.
You've got a very good template to start with.
Yeah, definitely.
But why don't you drop us a comment? Let us know which of them you preferred, or if you've got some experience of playing any of these. Let us know how you find them. If you haven't got any experience of playing these, we recommend every one of these games. They're all great, and the majority of them are like under £10, $10 on Steam and other places like that. Maybe free in some cases, yeah. But thank you for watching, especially if you made it this far, and we'll see you next time. Bye now.
Bye.